Hi, I'm Jace. Welcome to the first episode of The Comic Source. I've been collecting comics for over 33 years, and in that time my collection has grown to over 10,000 books. For reasons of storage, about 5 years ago I switched over to mainly digital comics, and since then I've obtained almost everything DC, Marvel, and most of the big independent publishers have released digitally. So that's a little background of where I'm coming from, and my plans for this vlog are to cover current comic news both in print and on television and in the movies, as well as do reviews of just released books, modern reviews, which I classify as books that have been published since the year 2000, and I'll also do some retro reviews, which would be books that were produced before the year 2000. Also, I'd love to get questions or comments from the viewers out there, and I'd be happy to answer them here in the video blog. So, let's get started. The first book I'd like to review that has come out in the last few weeks is a creator-owned book from Action Lab Comics. It's called Skyward. It is written and illustrated by an artist named Jeremy Dale. This book is fantasy. It's for all ages. It is the story of a young boy named Quinn, whose father has a past that catches up with him. Because of the events that unfold in the first issue, Quinn is forced to flee from his home, and that is where the adventure begins. The second issue introduces more characters to the story and an army that is on the march that we really don't know too much about yet. It ends on an awesome cliffhanger, and I'm sure that everybody out there who's read issue 2 is eagerly awaiting issue 3. The real strength of this story so far is the art by Jeremy Dale. His art has a little bit of manga influence, you can definitely see, but very, very clean lines, and it really jumps off the page. I got a chance to meet Jeremy at the San Diego Comic-Con this last year. He was selling the first few issues of this series there, as well as some trade paperbacks which contained the first 3 issues. He had both a colored edition and a black and white edition known as the Graphite edition. The Graphite edition without the color really shows the beautiful rendering both in the character and the backgrounds. Issue 1 came out July 31st and immediately sold out. Issue 2 was released the following week and also has sold out. These books are going on eBay for over cover price already. So if you'd like to pick them up, my suggestion would be to go to Comixology, where you can get the issues digitally for 99 cents each, which is a great price, and I believe they're definitely worth checking out. Also, you can let your local comic shop know that you're interested in the series so they can order the books for you. Issue 3 is due out September the 18th. So you definitely want to let them know as soon as possible so they can be sure to order a copy for you. I also would suggest stopping by Jeremy Dale's website, which is jeremy-dale.com. Some of his art he's done on other works, both for IDW on G.I. Joe, and he has some Marvel sketches and commissions on there. I got a commission done by him in San Diego, and it's my favorite commission I've gotten in the last 3 years. It's just amazing, and like I said, he's a really, really great guy. So I definitely recommend the book, both on its own merits and to help support Jeremy in his first creator-owned endeavor. The next book I'd like to talk about is by Valiant Comics. It's just came out last Wednesday. It is Harbinger 15. It is written by Joshua Dysart, who's been writing the new Harbinger series for Valiant since it started with issue 1 last summer. The art in this particular issue is done by Barry Kitson. The main characters in the book are known as Psiots, which is similar to a mutant, meaning that they were born with their powers. Now, the main characters in Harbinger have just been put through the ringer with an event known as the Harbinger Wars, which was Valiant's first big crossover between 2 of the books in their universe. The story in 15 starts out as kind of a day in the life of these young characters. You know, they're all teenagers and going through the traumatic events of what unfolded during the Harbinger Wars kind of has them pretty stressed out, so they just take some time to try and relax at the beach, and there's a few funny moments as the story goes along, just kids being kids. About halfway through the book, you kind of sense that there's something not quite right, and as the story goes along, that sense of something being off and the buildup of suspense and dread definitely occurs. As I read the story, I realized the characters also sensed that something was not quite right. The suspense definitely builds to a shocking ending, and I'm sure that every Valiant fan out there who's read it is anxiously awaiting the next issue. Like I said before, this book just came out last week, so I'm sure you can find it down at your local comic shop. It also is available digitally on Comixology. Now, for my modern review, I'm going to talk a little more about Harbinger by covering issues 0 through 14, which led up to the amazing issue 15 that I just told you about. As I mentioned before, Joshua Dysart has been on the book since day one, and he's done a great job of making you, as a reader, care about these characters. To tell you a little bit about the universe that these characters inhabit, they are what's known as psiots, which means their powers all come from their minds, basically. It doesn't necessarily mean that they all have the ability to read minds or have telepathy or telekinesis. It just means that there's no radioactive spiders or crazy lab accidents that gave these characters their powers. All the powers actually come from the characters themselves. Now, one complaint I've heard from people is that Harbinger is X-Men. I really couldn't disagree more. The X-Men are superheroes. I would not classify the main characters in Harbinger as superheroes. They're not out there doing good for the sake of doing good. They seem to be more grounded in reality. They're kids. They're unsure of themselves. They're trying to stay alive. It definitely adds a realism and suspense to the book. The book starts out in the first 5 issues. You're introduced to the main character, Pete Stanchek, who was one of only 2 psiots who didn't need to have his power activated by an external outside force or by interacting with another activated psiot. The other psiot whose powers were activated on their own is the main antagonist of the story. His name is Toyo Harada. His powers seem to have been activated at the end of World War II with the dropping of the first nuclear bomb. Now, Harada believes that he knows better than anyone what the future of the world should be, and he's willing to do anything to get his way, no matter who it hurts or who he has to go up against. His motto is definitely the ends justify the means. So he tries to recruit Pete, and Pete seems to go along at first, feels like he finally has a place where he might belong, but once he realizes the extent that Harada will go to get his way, he becomes Harada's mortal enemy. The next 5 issues cover Pete's escape from Harada, as well as him kind of recruiting his own group of psiots to both help keep himself safe, to keep them out of Harada's hand, as well as to ultimately stop Harada. Issues 11 through 14 cover the Harbinger Wars, where it's really the first chance we see for this group of teenagers that have come together to go on the offensive and try to actually stop what Harada is doing and help other kids like themselves. So it's kind of, they feel it's time for them to stop hiding and they want to get out there and make a difference. The other issue that has been released was issue 0, and that covers Harada's origin and his early days after discovering his powers. So all these books, 0 through 15, are all available on Comixology. You can also pick them up in trade paperback form. There are 2 trades out already. The first covers issues 1 through 5. The second covers issues 6 through 10. And the third one, which will be out on September 25th, covers 11 through 14, as well as containing the 0 issue that covers Harada's origin. Well, that's it for the first episode. I want to thank you all for watching. If you'd like to leave comments or questions below here on YouTube, feel free, or you can send me email. My email address is thecomicsourceblog@gmail.com. You can also follow me on Twitter. Just do a little search for The Comic Source, and it's me. A big shout out to Mike down at Red Sky Comics in Merced, California. He hooked me up with a lot of the artwork you see behind me on the Comic Source wall. Join me next time when I talk about the just released Superman Unchained #3 that came out on Wednesday. And in my retro review, I'll be talking about the DC Maxi series that came out in the mid-'80s, Crisis on Infinite Earths. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.